Hey guys, Richard Oldner here. Welcome to the channel. What happens when you upgrade the camshaft from a stock cam to a mild comp cam on a 3800 V6? Here's an even better question. What happens when we upgrade the camshaft on a naturally aspirated version? What happens when we upgrade the same camshaft on a supercharged version? Which one makes more power? There's only one way to find out. Let's head to the dyno. In this video, we're going to take a look at how much power a cam swap is worth on a supercharged 3800 V6. Except that we're not going to just test it supercharged, we're also going to test it NA. That's right, we're going to run the same cam swap on our NA 3800 V6, and then we're going to add the supercharger and run exactly the same cam swap, stock versus our comp cam, on the supercharged combination, and find out which one of the combinations, NA or supercharged, gains more power from the same cam swap. Check it out. To get going on our comparison between the stock L67 3800 supercharged V6 camshaft and the mild comp upgrade that we eventually put in, we ran this combination and we compared these two cams, both naturally aspirated and supercharged. So let's get going with our naturally aspirated comparison and see how well the cam did on our NA motor, and then we can also step up and see how well the camshaft did on our supercharged motor. So our NA motor was kind of a hybrid. It was an L67 short block, came from the wrecking yard. We installed a set of reworked L32 heads, so the later version of the supercharged combination. The heads were not ported or anything, they were just rebuilt basically. The guys at L&R did a valve job on it, they resurfaced it. We upgraded it with LS6 springs in preparation for the cam upgrade because we didn't want to run it with stock springs. We ran this thing with the long tube headers that we've been running on this series for a long time. We ran this with the L67 lower blower intake manifold, and then I took an L67 supercharger, the Series 2 M90, and we gutted it out, meaning that I pulled the rotor pack out, I made a cover plate to cover it, and we ran that basically as our NA intake manifold. So we ran this motor NA with the blower upper portion and the stock throttle body. Again, running through the headers, we had a Holley HP management system. We ran all of this on E85 fuel. And run in this manner with the stock camshaft first, our combination produced, our naturally aspirated 3800 combination produced 215 horsepower and 240 or 41 foot-pounds of torque. This big spike up here at the very beginning is kind of just the load-in number. So this was the power curve offered by our stock camshaft in NA trim. And here's what happened when we installed our comp cam. When we installed the comp cam, I'll give you the specs on the camshaft. It is a 510 lift, both on the intake and exhaust, a 210-220 degree duration split at 50 and 115 degree lobe separation angle. Again, we ran that camshaft with our LS6 springs. They're an upgrade basically for the factory 3800 springs. And the camshaft did offer a fair good bit of power. Peak power was all the way up to 247 horsepower. And instead of making peak power at 5,300 RPM like we did with the stock cam, it was now making peak power out at 5,900 RPM. The interesting thing is I want you to take a look at this area here around 4,500, from 4,000 to 4,700. There's a dip there. As it turned out, that's not really part of the camshaft. The camshaft actually didn't do that. That was a problem with the servo on the dyno. All of the rest of the run basically is accurate, but right there we had a servo control problem, so that dip is not really there. The dip over here at the beginning, the camshaft did lose power down low compared to the stock camshaft. Not surprising because, you know, it is a good bit bigger than the factory camshaft. But here are the power gains offered by the cam upgrade, and you can see most of the gains were beyond 4,500 RPM from the camshaft. And as we'll see, I think that probably the Supercharged combination might also follow suit. So here's what you could expect from going to it. It's a fairly mild cam. It's only 510 lift, and 210, 220 degrees of duration is a good split, and 210 degrees of intake duration. This thing is still going to idle fairly well, and 115 degree lobe separation angle is fairly wide. So here's our combination on the NA version, and now let's see what happened with the camshaft upgrade on the Supercharged combo. Now that we've taken a look at what the cam upgrade, our mild comp cam upgrade, is worth on our naturally aspirated 3800, let's take a look and see what it did when we ran the same comparison, the stock cam versus the comp cam, on the Supercharged combination. So we ran our stock cam first, and our 3800 was equipped with it had the L32 heads on it, but it also had the Gen 5 L32 M90 supercharger. So the later version of the supercharger. This was an L67 short block, but we had the L32 blower on it, and so it also had the L32 throttle body on it that comes with that assembly. We had installed a 3.2-inch blower pulley. Actually, somebody sent that to me, and they included both a 3.4 and a 3.2 pulley. So we ran this test with the 3.2 pulley. We still had our headers on there with no mufflers. We had full accessories and the drive assembly. We were running this on E85. Both of them were run with the same timing, and both of them had consistent air fuel. Again, these were run on E85, so we were running 21, 22 degrees on these. So run first with our stock camshaft and our 3.2-inch pulley. The combination produced right at 352 horsepower, 351.9. And with the blower and the stock camshaft, peak power came at 5,600 RPM. It was fairly level all the way out to 6,000, as you can see there. Peak torque checked in at 370.6, so we'll call that 371 foot-pounds. And peak torque occurred at 4,200 RPM with the stock cam and the supercharger with that 3.2-inch pulley. Here's what happened when we installed our comp cam and placed the stock cam. Remember, we already had our LS6 springs on this thing, so the camshaft was an easy upgrade. And as you can see, just like with the NA combination, with the Supercharged combination, peak power jumped up from 352 horsepower all the way up to 395 horsepower. Peak torque was up from 371 foot-pounds to 377, and peak torque occurred later with the stock cam. It was down at 4,200, and with the comp cam, peak torque occurred at 4,900 RPM. And the same thing with horsepower. This camshaft pushed horsepower peak out farther. With the stock cam and the Supercharged combination, peak power was at 5,600. And in Supercharged combination with the new camshaft, peak power was pushed out to 6,300. So this thing carried pretty well with that camshaft, even though it was fairly mild, 210, 220. It still worked very well. And also notice down here, below 3,500, just as we saw with the stock camshaft, the comp cam actually dropped power a little bit. There was definitely a slight loss in low speed power. So even down lower than that, if you were getting into the throttle at 1,500 or 2,000 or 2,500, you would be sacrificing a little bit of low speed power with the camshaft. The interesting thing is with this camshaft and the Supercharged combination, we did drop boost quite a bit, as you might imagine. And that's really a benefit. So not only do you get more power, but the boost is lower with this combination, and that's going to be a good thing because that's going to reduce knock counts and reduce your chance of detonation. On our combination, running 21 to 22 degrees of timing with E85, and the motor is cold and the dyno is cold and all that stuff, we don't have to worry about detonation at that sort of timing level and that sort of power level. It all worked out very well. The camshaft was gained power, and so on the Supercharged combination, we went from 352 to 395. So that's 41 horsepower or 44 horsepower. So I'll go ahead and put the gains up on the NA one, and we can kind of compare those. Let's get to our conclusion. Okay guys, what did we learn from this little adventure running the camshaft on our Supercharged 3800 V6? Well, we were learning the following thing. We ran the camshaft both naturally aspirated and supercharged, and we actually got different results. On our NA combination, we picked up about 32 horsepower. On the Supercharged combination, we picked up 43 horsepower. So we got more power on the Supercharged combination. Remember, that was at about 12 pounds of boost. So honestly, I expected even a little bit more power than we gained on the Supercharged combination that we did on the NA combination. But you know what? That's why we test. Armature holder, make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all that stuff. And you know what's coming up? I swapped out the comp cam for the ZZP cam. Videos coming up on that. Did we get any more power? Thanks for watching.